Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we'll start talking about thinking processes in chess, where you want to play chess and you're going through your opening, but at some point you lose theory, right? At some point you're not in theory anymore and you don't really know what to do, and then you start thinking, and after quite some thoughts, you realize you don't really know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing, and you make the game deciding blunder, or you do nothing, or you're not really moving with purpose. So what I want to do today is kind of go through those thinking processes during chess, what you have to think about, what you don't have to think about, even though it seemingly looks like I'm just making moves, move by move. Um, this is because I kind of know these sort of positions. I understand these sort of positions. Um, but as of now, we're out of theory, and I will start thinking about my thinking processes, which is one, looking at your opponent's last move. He castled. Well, what does this do? What did really change in the position? What advantage, what plan does he have? Well, maybe he wants to put the rook on e1. Maybe he wants to trade off things. And what disadvantages does this move have? Well, he's now has shown us where his king is. The king is very vulnerable to attack as I'm able to play g4, g5, and that's about it. Targets for both. Well, my king is not really safe. I have to be aware of that. If you don't ask yourself those questions, you could easily be, checked into uh, oblivion or something. Um, and other than that, well, this pawn is undefended. This is a semi-undefended field. It's defended by a piece, so it could be vulnerable. It's always more stable to have it defended by a pawn. And then, well, what's my worst piece? Well, my bishop is not really active. My queen is blocking it. So really naturally, I would just play g4 in this position. It just makes sense. Normally, I would consider more candidate moves for both parties, but this is quite forcing. After here, 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 it's already looking good. Or I can play g4, or I can go here. This seems more threatening, as if he goes back, I can move forward, and I gain more and more space. So yeah, this is basically what I go through. Usually this is also the plan in these sort of openings what I just played, where the knight goes back to b3 after bishop c5 in this position. It's always the plan. So I know the middle game plan. I do have a sort of advantage in terms of knowledge, in terms of um, these positions. And now I also kind of realize, oh, the knight could jump into this. I have to check this in my calculations, right? So let's say I could do this here, and I go here. He does have the option to do this. And I don't see that as a blunder. Uh, I don't still think I'm much better in this. I kind of know I'm better in that position. So we'll continue the onslaught. He could move here, but everything here is also defended. Actually, again, back to our thinking processes. His last move was this. Now this is protected, but the disadvantage is that the knight is very immobile. It's not really participating in the game. It has defeated. It has left its space at f6. I kind of want to play this, but it's still defended, so it's not really a blunder just yet. Yeah. Although maybe we could make it a blunder. Although maybe we could make a blunder out of it. Maybe bishop g2 is another option. So I have this as a candidate move, bishop g2 as a candidate move to play f4, bishop f3, and I have h5 as a candidate move, but h5 really doesn't do much. Actually, it's a blunder because it leaves this space behind and it allows this fork to happen. So h5 out of the books, so we only have two moves to really look at, whilst also looking at these moves for our opponents. And when I look at that position and I think to myself, what's the easiest to play here? I kind of want to quickly make up my mind and just go knight here. But after knight here, it's already becomes a bit uncomfortable. So let's say here, here, and he's already threatening c6. But then we just take. But then he could also take first, and we take, and then he goes there. So what I got in my mind now is knight e5. So I'm calculating the most threatening move. Bishop takes, queen takes, knight here. But now we could move our bishop to e2 instead of moving it to g2. That's already nice. So knight here, takes, takes, knight here, bishop e2, c6, and after c6, this pawn is kind of weak as well. Hmm, hard to say, but I think this is the move to play. So I judge that the flex we want to keep this open whether we want. I rather have my bishop at e2 than at g2, and because of that, I want to keep this flexibility open, and I decided to go for this move. So we considered these three moves. We compared them with this inclusion. Well, because I don't really think this was really a necessary thing to calculate. Um, it does come to fruition, but and again, we want to kind of really check again what to do. Well, do we really want to take with the queen and move the bishop to e2, or do we want to take with the knight? Well, going back, not really something I want to do, but still for consideration. After takes, um, knight here. I don't really see what our long-term plan is, and so I decide to take with the queen. Really two candidate moves that I had to consider there, and we kind of went for it. Knight here, as expected. So we kind of really predict all the moves that's gonna happen. And now I was thinking about this. But first, let's move our bishop to e2. c6 is gonna happen, and then we'll decide where to put the knight. It's either gonna be c3 or f4. So yeah, okay, we calculated a very correct line, and that's always nice to see. I do have some ideas of going here, and after takes, we take, and there's rook takes. So that's a nice option, actually. That's a nice option. I don't think it's necessary, but it's a nice option. We open up the bishop. Everything's happening at once. So I want to go here. I also could go back. So back to our thinking processes. We could go back. We could we could try this check, but after takes, or takes even, I don't really see the point. And this is the most forcing move in the position. After takes, we have takes. And if you take here, we take here. And after he takes here, we can take here with the there. So I really like this move. Could be a blunder. Could just be that I just blundered. But I really like this move. The knight is also quite immobile, so it has only backspaces to go to. So yeah. Notice now that knight g3 is not such a threat anymore because the queen is defending it. That's also a change we just saw. And yeah. Now that we spent so much time, actually it's quite little time if it was a classical game. So we still quite, had an efficient route of thinking. I think this is just simply a blunder, as we just win a pawn here. You oftentimes have enough time to consider more deeply options because this is rapid. It's not really possible to think that deep. Um, but yeah, again, what is the what has changed? We've traded pieces. He left this space. Takes. What changed? Well, the knights are gone. This knight is gone, which stood there. My knight here is gone. He has an attack here, which looks threatening. But what we also see is that the immobility of the bishop is also quite severe. And then naturally, this forcing move of f5 just comes up in your mind. f5 takes, and you're up a piece. Did he blunder anything? Maybe he wants to do queen c7, but then we can do rook d2. So we're also keeping track of what he wants to do. Okay, you put something in front of my king, I will keep track of it. Yeah, so let's do it. I don't see why not. This is also still defending the pawn, by the way, so I'm also looking at the disadvantages of the moves I make, not only the moves he makes. And I also am quite aware that my king's diagonal is not the strongest, but my queen is doing a fair good job of defending that. Again, we're just defending the threats. We saw what he wanted to do before he saw what he wanted to do, and we're just simply, yeah, we're simply handling the issues as good as we can. You might wonder why are you still like talking so much even though you have 2 minutes? Well, we're simply up a piece. It's really not that difficult to convert that advantage. We just simply have to play as actively as possible. His plans, stop it, put our pieces on good squares, and win the game. I was briefly considering h5, h4, but it really doesn't do anything. It really doesn't do anything because I don't have a plan with h5. I don't really want to put a rook on a different file. So what's the point? Notice now that because I put it here, the position has essentially changed. Now my knight is also defending this. So I could play rook here and here, but before I do that, I want to play rook here, just for flexibility's sake. This move essentially doesn't do really anything. And now he wants to thread in something like this, but yeah, I doubt anything would happen if I allowed it. We could still stop the plan, honestly. We could still stop the plan by blowing here. Now I don't have to retake. Could even go back. Still, this is on the books. Notice now that I have actually created a lot of targets. Everything here is kind of defended. This is maybe a weakness, I do have to admit. But, um, whoa, whoa. This is also undefended. But what I essentially want to point out is that you have to be aware of where your weaknesses lie as well. My queen here was undefended, my rook here was undefended, and we need to be aware of these weaknesses we have in our positions, which is essentially the undefended pieces, and especially your king. We as humans are very much intuitively challenged to consider our king safety, as we're not really good at it intuitively. That's what I meant. But let's move the knight here as we are attacking two weaknesses. Again, the rook is a weakness because it's in play. The pawn is a weakness because it's undefended. And we could simply just take. Um, yeah. Now look at this backward pawn. I see that the weakness. Again, this is still a weakness here. Knight is now able to move from place to place, but I don't consider that a big weakness in my camp as we're still up a piece. And yeah, we're just trying to convert here. Okay, defending well. Um, let's just move back, attack this again. He could take here though, but then we take here. And that's a nice tactic at least. And let's see. This is undefended, but it looks still okay. Gotta be careful of the back rank. king has no square, so we're threatening this. And let's just do it. Not much time, anyways. Mm, tick. Mm, could even move here. Try to go there. Then he goes here. Now let's just take. And then maybe we go there. Now we can't. We move here. He keeps it quite complex. And we just exchange pieces. Very simple. We are cutting it tight on the clock, I have to say. But still, everything still very much going our way. I would say, let's go here, try to exchange stuff. 23 seconds. It's gonna be tight. It's definitely gonna be tight. No, no, it's not. No, it's not. Not anymore. I just simply move this pawn. I pre-move b3 because I want to have less pawns on the board, but obviously it's just gonna be moving forward the pawn, stopping any stupid shenanigans, and then just moving along. He's obviously gonna try a lot of stuff, so I'm just gonna stop everything he can do, which is literally just these 2 pawns, right? And then, 18 seconds is plenty to mate with 2 queens. You could do that in 1 second. Gotta be careful. Do I promote with a stalemate? Still, being aware of the plans of your opponents, even if you're low on the clock. Very important. And I really hope I don't, yeah, blunder here. I'm considering moves like this now. Just edging towards victory. He still has this square. Really important to check. And now we're just gonna simply do this. We don't even have to really. Well, maybe this is more accurate. If he moves there, we just keep on checking. And if you do every move a check, even though it might not be the best continuation of um, the mates, you could still, you know, every move check will guarantee you a checkmate, which is not there. It's actually here. If I moved here, if I moved here, I would have, he still would have done there, but everything was made anyways. 4 seconds, plenty, obviously, with 2 queens on the board. And yeah, good game. Hope you guys learned a little bit. I learned as well with you guys, as I've not fully made this thinking process unconscious yet, and this is really the aim to do. We need to unconsciously be able to do this. So the step playing is as follows. Your opponent doesn't move. What does that move do? What is his plan? What is the disadvantage of this move? What are the targets of both parties? What are my targets? What's his targets? And because of that, you understand the position a lot. Let's, for example, go back to one of these positions and understand, oh, in this case, like, this was a pretty good move, I think. Okay, engine doesn't agree. But what I considered here was, okay, what have we got going on? Okay, let's go to a different tactic. What do we have here? Okay, he is trying to do this, so we are aware of what he was trying to do. What are his targets? Oh, look at this bishop, very looking very trapped. This just flows out of the mouth. So by understanding the position, you uh, calculate a lot less because what you see is already so good. And but when you then have chosen for your candidate moves, the moves you want to do, you do need to um, you do need to calculate them. And for example, here I got sloppy and I didn't calculate something like bishop takes f7, right? Checks, captures, threats. So we then go through the calculation phase of checks, captures, and threats. Um, Obviously, here we already knew that he was gonna do this, so it didn't came to a surprise. Our central nervous system wasn't even damaged at all, which made us really calm in the end when we had little time on the clock because we know we were constantly aware of what he did, and even when we made a mistake, like here, for example, not being um, not really being aware of um, the disadvantage of our moves, which is this pawn being undefended, we still had a very superior position and could still rely on our gut in time trouble. Had we not did that in the beginning, going through all those thinking ways, I really would argue that the game could have gone very much differently and in a way that would heavily damage your central nervous system slash composure. So that's the game. Uh, I do uh, I do wonder what the accuracy was because I did have one inaccuracy at the very least. 80%. I do take an 80%. Um, yeah, apparently H5 was really good here. And another mistake was F4. Apparently moving the knight back was already good enough too. After F4, he kind of went crazy though, which was really my mistake. But what I calculate here was if he takes, 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 I have at least rook takes, or maybe even e takes. Apparently e takes better. I was considering more rook takes, because it's more active, looks more active. But in hindsight, the rook doesn't really do much, and the pawn maybe is a bigger threat than the rook because it's one step closer to promotion, I guess, and you cannot play this anymore. And after the trade, maybe this pawn becomes really strong. If you avoid the trades, well, you can't really avoid the trade. If you try to block, well, I don't really understand this position. So, yeah, that's for another day. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time.